Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Connecting with Our Community webinar led by Studio Designer CEO Keith Granet. Thank you for joining us today. Today, our guest is Cary Kravet, President of Kravet, Inc. We invite you to submit written questions anytime during the session. After Keith and Cary finish their conversation, we will begin our audience Q&A. If you go to the GoToWebinar control panel under questions, you will see a dialog box to type in as seen in this screenshot. And now, here is Studio Designer CEO Keith Granet.
Welcome, everybody. This is our 12th session of Connecting Our Community, and we're glad to have you with us. We originally came up with this program to be 12 weeks long, but now we have discovered that many of you would like to hear from others, and so we're going to continue it through the end of the month, and then we'll decide how many more we'll do based upon your interest. So if you have anybody you would like us to bring to the table to have a discussion with, please let us know. It is my pleasure today to introduce you to Cary Kravet. Cary has been a longtime supporter of Studio. The company Kravet, as you probably all are well aware of, is one of the largest fabric and furniture houses with brands like Lee Joffa and Brunswick and Fee, Curated Kravet, and GP&J Baker out of London. It's an amazing company that is now in its 5th generation, where Cary's daughter and son and his nephew are now the 5th generation to join the company. So I'd like to welcome Cary to join us today. Hi, Cary.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. So how is all this craziness going for you?
It's been quite an experience, Keith. It really has. It's been challenging. It's been invigorating. It's been exciting. It's been reflective. It's been emotional, mentally taxing. In some ways, refreshing, burdensome, confusing, but always really a high level of alertness and receptivity to change. It's created, I think, a tremendous opportunity to rethink and reevaluate what we do, how we do it, why we do it, and it's forced us to then rethink our systems, our staffing, our logistics, our products, our presentations, our communications, and our HR. It's really been a whirlwind.
Yeah. So do you think in all the generations of people managing Kravet, that this has probably been one of the most challenging times for the company?
I think there are lots of challenges.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think every era, every period has its own challenges. And I think there are probably good resources that will tell us that you deal with all the challenges in the same ways. There's probably the same fundamentals that you do. Right. For example, when this started, we created a core multidisciplinary team to deal with all the exigent transition issues. We immediately addressed getting our office and showroom people out of those places where they could be in any danger, or set them up to work remotely. We closed down the showrooms. We implemented safety protocols throughout our warehouses. And we decided, like I think with any crisis, any generation, the key was, through all of this, lots and lots of communication to everyone in our ecosystem, to our suppliers, to our employees, to our associates, to our customers. And I think that was really key. And probably like other crises and other eras, you start to say, okay, now what? And to that end, about a week after we dealt with the exigent circumstances, we formed committees of what I called futures committees, because we had to plan for the future. It can't just be looking at crisis mode. There had to be some excitement, some good thought, some team participation. So we looked at things like, what are sales going to look like in the future, the way of selling, what's our marketing, merchandising, our digital presence, our technology, our administration, our operations. We try to have these teams together, these futures teams together, to not only think about it, but to document it. So we can go ahead with that plan once the craziness of the immediate circumstances settle down.
So basically, once you got your arms around the pandemic, it was, let's look at what the future means and how do we continue to move forward and do innovative things.
Yeah.
So out of that, what's come out of that you want to share that has been sort of eye-opening, that's and some sort of future moving ideas?
Well, on a bigger picture, I think we learn that we have to act quickly yet thoughtfully. We have to be out there, and whatever the crisis is, we really have to navigate those tough waters. We can't stay in a safe harbor. It would have been easy to just hang out, pull in, and weather the storm. We felt that we had to be out there. The old analogy of ships are made to sail, not to stay in a safe harbor. And I think that's so true. But when you do that, you make mistakes. And of course, we made mistakes, but you learn from those. And it's not the mistake you make, of course, it's the learning that comes after that mistake that you make that's important. And I think probably the best lessons are we learned how to work better as a team. And we learned that it's hard to over-communicate. You have to repeat, you have to communicate, you have to realize that you have many different audiences. So those are kind of the broader lessons that we learned, that if we thought about it, we already knew, but it's good to actually think about it and talk to you and people listening about it, because it helps me think about it.
So the frequency you can communicate with your teams, what does that look like?
Every morning at 8:30, we had our core business functional teams. We met, there's about 30 of us every morning, meeting from generally 8:30 to 9:15. We try to end at 9, but it sometimes goes to 9:15. And then every evening we met with our core sales and marketing. A lot of people are on both teams, but every evening at 5 o'clock to review what happened that day. And that took place from 5 o'clock to sometimes 6 o'clock, but usually 5:45. And now we've scaled that back.
Well, I think that we're all finding that we're sort of Zoom exhausted, and being on a Zoom call I had one the other day for an hour and a half, and it's tiring.
The real tiring ones are the ones that seem like an hour and a half. So hopefully this won't.
Yeah. And how have people accepted sort of the remote working? Have you brought people back anywhere, or?
We've brought people back to showrooms, clearly, and we brought some. Yeah. That's where in showrooms we're staffed up, and all of our showrooms are as of I think next Monday, every showroom will be open by appointment. But I think if your question was really what?
Well, did you find the challenges of working remotely with certain team members? And
I think what probably surprised me is people's ability to adjust to change very quickly. All of a sudden, one day everyone was in an office. The next day, our IT team was sending everyone out to go work remote. Here's your equipment. Fortunately, we put in a telephone system a few weeks before that was plug in, plug out. So it was perfect timing. But I think the amazing thing is how quickly we all make adjustments, and we adapt to new circumstances. And I watch a TV show now, and I see people hugging. I'm thinking, boy, that had to take place a long time ago. People don't hug anymore. That stadium mattered. That has to be a rerun. And your eyes and your mind adjust to these changes very quickly. And I think it's almost like, speaking about watching shows, if you remember the movie Jurassic Park, and one of the famous lines from that was, life finds a way. Well, I think markets find a way, and people find a way. We really adjust so adeptly and so quickly. And as long as our government can provide the correct and fair guard and guidelines and rails, I think we do a remarkably good job at change.
Mm-hmm. Did you have to go out and buy computers for people? And
we did. Initially, we did. We scoured the market. We were at every Best Buy. But then we realized that we could have people take their desktops with them, that we could redo the equipment that they had. So, immediately we scoured and found 30 or 40 new laptops. But we changed that to iPads and desktops. So we're in pretty good shape within a week or two.
were you, did you have to upgrade sort of technology or sort of bandwidth and things to make sure that everyone could work remotely?
We were concerned about it, but no, we were really fine. We were good on that technology. We have really nice people that do that.
Right, that's great. It is amazing that how sort of adaptable people become, and whenever there's a challenge, I think because as an industry, at some level, we're problem solvers, right? We help people, create, different lives for themselves or beauty in their lives, and you have a problem you need to solve and you solve it. And so it's within the thinking of a designer to think that way. And so you're presented with something, you make that change happen.
Agree.
What has your communication with the designers been? Did that fall off at all, or did you actually up your communications?
No, as I said, over communication is so important, and there's a fine balance. We don't want to say we don't want to send an email out every day telling about this new collection, and there had to be a shift. And the question was, when do you make the shift from the emotional to the pragmatic? So initially, the emotional was and supportive. We understand everyone's going through this. It's a crisis that we have to share, talk about, communicate best practices with each other. This is what we're doing. We're here to help. But at some point, then there's the change. I'm tired of the word pivot, but there's the change to, okay, here's some good product that you might like, or we've added this additional service that's helpful in the selection of product. And it's finding the time to communicate those messages.
Right.
It's necessary to repeat messages. Our marketing team has to repeat all the messages to me until I get it. So I imagine our customers are so much more remote than my interest. So the repetition, the necessary for lots of communication, but the balance with not being too burdensome and too being over the top.
So when you think about our industry and what we've just sort of gone through and are going through, and every sort of crazy thing happening in the world right now, what concerns you that we as an industry should stay on top of or need to address?
I think that it's probably happening now that designers have to be sure they retain their sense of value. Designers add that we've shifted away from selling just products as an industry. Designers have to remember that they're selling talent that the consumer, for the most part, doesn't have. They're selling their experience. They're selling their knowledge. They're selling relationship skills, which are not always so easy to find. They're selling professionalism. They're selling beauty. They're selling creativity. One sort of analogy I make is if you remember the hockey player Gretzky, the great one, and they asked him, "What makes the greatest hockey player ever? What makes you so great?" And his answer was very simply, "I don't know if I'm faster, quicker, or stronger, but I see where the puck is going before it gets there, and that's where I go to." And similarly, I think I've been with designers. They go into a blank space and they say, "Oh yeah, I understand this. I work with a designer." He comes in and he says, I've got it done. I know exactly the way it's going to look. And it's a blank room. But they can see things that the average consumer cannot see. And they have to remember that's the value they have. They have so much talent, and not to lose that. Not to cheat. I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges to keep our industry alive and vibrant.
Yeah, for years we've been talking about, I think it was right after the financial crisis and designers trying to figure out how to sort of keep their businesses going. And we asked, a large pool of people what they thought the biggest issue was, and it was communicating your value. And I completely agree with that. Yes, it's a commodity in the sense that you're buying a lot of product, but at the end of the day, you and I can buy the same product, and our houses or our offices will not look the same without a designer helping us, put that product in the right place, in the right size. And so it's really is your talent that you're selling, and how do you communicate that value? I hear all the time from clients that say, oh, people are telling me I'm the most expensive. And I always say to them, there's a lot worse to be known for than being expensive, because it means you have the talent and you deserve it. And you have to be able to communicate that. So I do agree with you on that. So what changes have occurred that you think are here to stay, that we should sort of be aware of? Americans typically have a very short attention span, and we bounce right back to whatever we're comfortable with. But I think this is different, and there may be some changes that are here to stay. Do you have any thoughts on that?
It's hard to say on just a couple of months, but my guesses are, first, quicker decision making. Clearly, communications improvements. We're all communicating so much better and so much more efficiently. I think that's a dramatic change. Every meeting starts on time, ends within the designated time you give it, because there's another meeting coming up. There's much less wasted travel time. We're much more prepared for every meeting. I think that communications are much crisper, fuller, and productive. I think something that, and this is not just because of the COVID crisis, but it's also because of the protest and the race crisis that's come to the forefront, it's community support, the sense of community. And I think the sense of community and others is so much more important. And I think that's here to stay, that there's a broader world out there, and we do better when there's community support than when it's just us. I guess the best analogy to that I always give is, it used to be that in the operating room, everyone listened to the surgeon. The surgeon was king and czar. Now, in much more successful operating rooms, everyone has the ability to say, something's wrong. Everyone can stand up and stop the procedure and say, hold on a second. There's something that we have to do, or we should be doing a little differently here. There's a danger. And I think that sense of community and shared responsibility has changed. I think we're also getting back, all of us, when we're reassessing what we do and what we do well, we get back to our core brand values, our core brand attributes. I think that probably won't change. And I think we're all much more clearly focused on our priorities. It's easier. All the other stuff just kind of falls away. We focus a lot more.
Yeah, I think acknowledging what's important to people, especially the way they live now, is, probably come to the forefront of this. So I get it. Going back to your saying that, there are communications faster and more timely. I have to say, I've never been so on time to every meeting that I've ever had, because there's somebody sitting at the other end of the computer waiting for you.
And there's no traffic.
Yeah, and they're waiting because if I were going to someone's office, they could be working, right? But now they're sitting waiting for this meeting to happen, so you have to be on time. So I guess that's a good thing, to train an old dog some new tricks there. So handling your orders and customers during this time, how has that shifted? And now that the showrooms are open by appointment, is it sort of going back to, sort of the cadence that it was before, or will it be forever different?
I think it will be improved. I think our orders and our customer relations have become dramatically more digital, yet in a non-contradictory way, much more personal. And they seem like there's an interesting dynamic there, and they really enhance each other. Very simply, the number of our customers, the number of orders we're receiving digitally, the communications we have digitally, have skyrocketed. It's getting done without speaking to someone, which provides a lot more time for our sellers to give that personalized service. So much of what we do now is bigger orders, bigger projects, and it requires a lot more attention, a lot more participation, and a lot more partnership, really, on the part of our sellers. And they have more time to do that if the simple ordering functions and processing functions can be done digitally. We've just decided to go ahead with a big new project on our configuring all of our furniture. Just to make it easier. It's probably a 9-month project, but it's necessary along the same lines because we want to be sure to make things easier for our customers and our sellers so that they could get on to the good stuff, which is the creativity.
Right. So is that a digital transformation for the furniture, meaning that you'll be able to do something in how you can see it and communicate it? And yeah, that's great. I do think that, it's one of the reasons why Studio has been so strong during this period is, people need to work remotely and they need to have access to all their data. I wonder,
we learned all the good things that are in Studio that, you just pass over before because you didn't know all the bells and whistles, but now you have time to become more efficient and to learn about them.
Yeah, our client portal, the way we communicate and pull information off through vendor sites with our widget that scrapes the information from it. There are all these tools that we're surprised that some of our users don't even know about, but more and more we're introducing and showing them ways that can make them more efficient. I was curious about sampling because as people sort of move from their offices to remotely, did you see a large uptick in people wanting more samples?
Absolutely. Yes. And there was really no reticence on the part of our customers to take in samples. I will put a little plug in here. We do spray all of our samples with a quick antiviral disinfectant so that everyone can feel safe with samples. But no, samples have really skyrocketed.
Have you always done that, or was that something you just instituted?
No, just.
Yeah. That's great. So orders from customers, are they're just being handled the same way they usually have, and they're dealing either with showrooms or reps?
Yeah, there's really very little difference. It's just that our customers are handling it more on their own at the hours they want to handle it through our portals.
Right. Okay. Well, you said that the showrooms are all opening by appointment, but are you getting requests, because we've heard this from a couple of other vendors, for virtual tours where somebody can actually FaceTime and look at product and show them new stuff?
I think depending on where you're living, what you've lived through, what those around you have experienced, everyone is approaching this differently. So we do virtual tours. We do, of course, showroom by appointment, which you can go on and it plugs into your Google Calendar. I think everyone is handling it differently, and we have to respond in different ways to different ways that people are feeling and handling it.
Great. So as you said, you were looking at the future and these initiatives. Are there future products or future initiatives that you want to share with our users that they should look for?
This is so nice of you to ask. I really appreciate it. I prepared a list.
Okay.
You asked that. I said, if there's one thing he's going to ask, it's going to be, hopefully that you would ask, it's going to be about new products. So I'll divide into 3 parts, and I'm going to speak very quickly because there's so much to tell.
Cool.
On the fabric side, 70 new collections of fabric coming out this year. Most of it was in the works. We're continuing to come out with it. For example, for every day of the year, we have a new drapery SKU in 5 different drapery books that are coming out now. 365 new SKUs of drapery presented across these books. 1,700 new SKUs of Clark & Clark product. A new Nikki Haslam collection by Paulo Moschino. Kelly Wersler, Terra Firma 3, indoor-outdoor collection by Kelly Wersler. A great collection by Cary & Company for Lee Joffa by Jesse and Mara. That just has come out. In addition, in the next couple of months, we have a Windsor Smith home collection, an Egyptian-influenced collection. We have Barbara Barry Home, the return of Barbara Barry, in the collection is called Midsummer. We have a new, a terrific artist. Years ago, we did a collection with someone named Hunt Slunham, who you may know. Does a lot of bunnies, birds, and butterflies.
I should show you the painting that's right next to me.
Okay, great. There's an artist in Indianapolis, terrific artist named Barry Lance. He does design work also with his daughter, Amanda. And he's a great artist. So we've created a collection from his artwork called From Canvas to Cloth. And that's
nice.
That's going to be very nice. We're continuing with a Les Ensembliers collection for Brunswick et Fils. And of course, we have collections from Baker, Threads, Gaston, Andrew Martin, Winfield, Coles. In furniture, we've done I Create, where designers can create their own collections. And we've done a 10-day quick ship collection. And finally, and a Michael Berman collection from your area, mid-century modernism in furniture. And for floor covering, we have indoor-outdoor performance collection and in-stock rug collection and micro sale collection. And that's all of it. That takes 4 days of a sales meeting to go over with our sellers. And you got it in 2 minutes.
A minute and a half, yeah. So talk to us a little bit about this Create Your Own. What is that? How does that work?
It's a furniture program that allows our designers to create pieces of their own furniture, from lamps to chests to ottomans to bedrooms. So it's a nice, tight program that our sellers love, and it's just being introduced to our customers.
So is it you send drawings and then you'll make it, or is it like, sort of a kit of parts?
It's a kit of parts. So they can take those parts and create what they want. And interestingly, so much of our furniture, even though it's we have set piece of furniture, I'd say at least a third of our furniture is custom.
How is furniture done in this market? Is it, it was a little tougher than fabrics, with shipping and all of that.
Yeah, I think there was a bigger hesitation or sort of hold in furniture because of the necessity to get it into someone's home and to ship it to someone's home. Those floodgates seem to have opened.
Yeah. So you did mention that earlier, that the last 2 weeks you've really seen a big uptick, as if, as the world's opened up a little bit and people were, most projects we're hearing were put on hold. They weren't stopped completely. And so I think the back order of all of that happening, is inventory in pretty good shape as far as if people are looking for to get product? Is it still a fairly quick turnaround?
We're 90% in stock. I don't want this to be an advertisement, but we're still 90% stock on our fabrics. We have a great in-stock floor covering program, and furniture is back on schedule. 6-8 weeks and a quick ship in 10 days. So it's, there's really not much of a problem on a bigger scale. For individual orders, there will be some delays. There were delays in lots of shipments from India, transportation issues. India was shut down for a month or so. So that there are delays, but we had a lot of product in stock, so it didn't affect us as much.
That's great. Well, Cary, I think it's time to open it up for questions from our audience.
Absolutely.
Sarah, do we have questions from people?
We do. Question for Cary. Kravet is a 5th generation company. Were you always interested in working in the business, and did you encourage your children to do so as well?
Is this question being asked by one of my children? No, I went to law school. I was going to become a lawyer. And then I started to work as a lawyer and said, you know what? There's a lot more fun things to do than being a lawyer. Isn't that true, Keith?
Yeah, I guess.
This is a great industry. It's full of just terrific people, caring people, I think by the nature of what everyone does and the profession they've chosen. It's just we deal with delightful people who are fascinating, kind, always wanting to help someone. I mean, that's pretty much how they started, between their talent mixed with a desire to help. And that's a great industry to be in, and I've loved it for the past 37 years. My children and my nephew, I think, came to it differently. My daughter came to it from more of an arts perspective. I think my nephew always wanted to do this, and my son, I probably had a similar experience to me, was after a short experience as in investment banking, he decided, this is a nice industry to be in. I mean, that investment banking is really the other extreme. I'm sorry if there are any investment bankers in the audience, but if there are any ex-investment bankers in the audience, you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
Does that answer your question? I hope.
Sarah?
I think that's good, Cary. Yeah.
Okay,
That's
thanks.
great. Thank you. We have another question that's come in from Susan. You have international presence. How did the reaction to COVID differ from the US from your company?
Oh, that's good. This gets into a little politics. But in the UK, we really shut down quite a bit. Europe shut down. There was no business coming out of Europe. The UK shut down, but the government was actually very supportive. We're unfortunately sort of in that mid-sized company area domestically, where we're too big to take advantage of the PPP plan. So the government really didn't provide any assistance for us. We're on our own. So we contrast that because in the UK and in Canada, we're a small company, and both governments provided lots of assistance. So, but if you want to know how business was in those countries, business really died in Europe. The UK then really fell apart, but they're both coming back very strongly. We're seeing some, and again, it's hard to say what's happening based upon small data sets, but if the trends we're seeing over the last 10 business days is an indication, particularly the last 5 business days, things are looking so much better. I think what happens to some extent is what I talked about earlier. People adjust. We have a tremendous ability to adapt and deal with and become productive in whatever the new reality is. And business finds a way. And I think that's what's happening. So even if we have, or when we have the expected resurgence in the fall, people will have adjusted. Their minds will have adjusted. We'll know how to cope with this kind of pandemic, and we'll be much more effective in what we're doing. We'll be much more productive, successful. Everyone should or does have a plan as to a playbook as to what will happen if there is or when there is a resurgence. And I think that's what we're seeing in a lot of markets. You deal with it.
Great.
All right, we have another comment. So a comment, not a question. Comment from Mary. Cary, this is not such a question, but thank you. Our firm is a huge proponent of Kravet. We love our Scottsdale showroom. Our rep, Ellen, Crystal, our showroom manager, Elliot, our leader. We just get the best service, and we look forward to visiting the local showroom. We are very loyal. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mary. That's sweet. Thank you.
That should make you feel good.
Yeah, hope Elliot's and Crystal and Ellen are listening. Thank you.
All right, we have a question from Ben. You have been a leader in the licensing of designer brands. how does this help build the Kravet brand?
It gives in two different ways. Licensing gives us a different point of view. Our creative people, our designers who are employed by us, textile designers or furniture designers, have their style. They know what they do best, and they see what's sold best. So a licensor brings something different, a different eye, a different point of view. They're not going to reproduce what we already have, and we're not going to reproduce product that we already have. They're going to do something different. So that's one way. Then the second way is that when our customers are looking at our products, it's a nice, easy handle. We all look for shortcuts. And we've seen through this crisis, everyone needs a shortcut. It makes things easy. So when you think about a collection like, okay, you come into our showroom and you come in, you want to see Lee Joe, I want to see the Kelly Wearstler collection. I want to see, because it has a very clear point of view. It's already separated out everything else that we have into this collection. So it makes their job easier by separating what they think they want right away, and it gives them a real focus. It's a shortcut. Barbara Barry, it's a shortcut. You know what you're going to get. It simplifies the process.
Yeah, I would imagine, because each designer has a point of view,
Yes.
as you say, you know what you're going to get because you know that point of view.
Or you know that you're going to be pleasantly surprised. You want to see their creativity. What is the next thing that Barbara Barry is going to do? Or someone might not know the style of a Canadian company. We work with a company from Montreal, Les Ensembliers. What is Les Ensembliers? Who are they? What's their point of view? So they're curious, and it creates almost, when you think about looking through the wings and you see a collection, and then you stop and you look a second time. Oh, what's that? Okay, it has a point of view. And that little bit of hesitation, that stop, makes you look at that product for a little bit longer. It's like clicking on a website. And if you hesitate a little bit, there's much more opportunity for an order to come from it.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Do you, I'm sure you get this question all the time, but the amount of sort of licensing you've done, you must get bombarded with people who want to do licensing with you.
Yeah, we do. And the hard thing is we have such great relationships with so many great licensors. I mean, we have a relationship with, and a successful relationship with licensors for so many years. I think of Barclay Butera, Alexa Hampton. I mean, I grew up in the business with Alexa's dad and Alexa Hampton. So I grew up in this business. And Barclay, we've known for 20 some odd years. And so that really part of what we do. And it's delightful to work with them. We know how we work together. We know that there's a different point of view. Tom Felicia. These are all I'm sorry I'm mentioning any names, because I'm sure I've left out 20. But these are all terrific people with terrific points of view who are really part of our company culture. And we talk about those collections as if they are their own, it's almost a separate company within a company, their collection. So
Right.
There are lots, but we feel very personally involved with it.
Didn't the whole licensing sort of program start with Mark Hampton?
It did, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I've been going through, during this time, I've been cleaning out a lot of our paperwork at the office, old stuff. And I found some great old things from our first collection. From that, and from a collection we did with the Smithsonian, a Native American collection called WIO, back in the early 90s. But Mark was our first. Yep.
And whose idea was that? Was that your dad's, or was it, which generation did it sort of get born?
I would say that was my dad.
Yeah. That's great. Sarah, do we have other questions?
We do. So we have a question from Gary. Imagine what might happen if the home furnishings industry would promote itself like electronics, automobiles, culinary, and travel. I wonder why I don't see glamorous commercials that focus on the client's experience. How can we compete with these other industries for clients' dollars?
Ooh, that's interesting. I think my quick answer is that we're a really small industry, and we don't have the kind of budgets that those other industries have, nor do we have the organizations that have lots of money to spend as an industry. We've talked over the years, I've been involved with the DFA, ASID, about promoting our industry. Got Milk is the first thing that people say, why don't we do that, and tell everyone the beauty of our industry and how they need our industry. But I think it always comes back to a question of getting the money to do it, and who's going to do it. You know, who will bell the cat? Who's going to tell the story? Who's going to be out there? And that, again, goes back to funding. We do have such a great story to tell. We make things beautiful for people. We make their lives better.
Right. Well, you know, it is a tricky question because, one, I think just basic volume of who actually can afford to hire a designer. I do think that some of the TV shows, the transformational shows that have shown people, you know, how you can turn something into beauty, have helped our industry because people want to do more of it. We've certainly seen a huge rise in the DIY world, but pushing it further so that the designer actually and what they do and their talent is communicated. It's pretty rarefied air, so it is a little tougher to commoditize it that way.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
All right, we have a question from Marlene. Keith and Cary, it seems to me that this recent change will boost the importance of the interior designer. Do you agree?
Cary, I'll let you go first.
I've been saying for the last probably 2 months that once we get through this, it's going to be very good for us, because if you look at those with disposable income that were using designers before, they still have that disposable income, yet they're not traveling. They've just spent months in their homes. And I know from spending months at home that there's so much that I'm going to redo in my home. I go on Zoom calls and I look at what people are looking at behind me and I say, oh, look at that. I never noticed that I have to, no, I should really paint, or there's a crack there, or that is just tired looking. And I know that I have to redo. Everyone should be experiencing that. And you want to, I think people who have that disposable income are saying, life is perhaps a little bit more fragile, or I'm realizing that life is more fragile. I should make my living environment as pleasant and as beautiful as possible. I should get pleasure out of it. And I have the disposable income. I have the desire. I don't necessarily have the ability to do it. And I need to hire someone who does have the ability. And that's my new experience. So I think this crisis, in an odd way, does bode well for our industry longer term.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I've spent my career, communicating how important an interior designer is, but also personally doing, even when I renovated part of my house, and I realized that measuring the rug for my son's room was over measured because I forgot about the built-ins, and that when we needed to order yardage for, his window treatments, and like bolts and bolts of fabric arrived because I multiplied by 9 instead of dividing by 9. I realized this is why people hire interior designers. So I think that all you have to do is do it wrong once, and the value becomes that much more obvious.
And you have to walk into an environment that's done by a designer, and you know the difference.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I think show houses certainly help people with that too.
Yeah.
Sarah, do we have time for one more question?
We do. Our last question comes in from Ed. How do you see the long-term outlook of showrooms and design centers?
How's that for a question, Cary?
That's a really dangerous question. Ed, that's really tough. One thing I've seen through this crisis is the importance of showrooms. And as soon as showrooms open, business increases. There's a direct correlation. And I think showrooms are really important. The functionality in showrooms, we've been pushing to see if that can change. We've opened up a few new prototype showrooms. We're just opening one up in the past couple of weeks in Denver, and we're redoing one to be sort of this new prototype in Chicago. So that will happen over the next probably 6 weeks in Chicago, 8 weeks in Chicago. So I think that what happens always in a showroom, they may be more of a combination of places to see product and select product as they've always been, but also resource centers for sellers. I think that's become more important. I think that what happens in a showroom has to become more efficient to please all of our customers, and that will be a change. I think there will be questions, like all of real estate, about square footage. The costs of showrooms are high. The leasing costs are high. And what is the necessary square footage? And you see that happening throughout real estate, and showrooms will be a part of that. There may be a move to more suburban showrooms as people are talking about more moves to the suburbs, easier, drive in, drive out. And we have both suburban, we're kind of split between suburban and urban, and we're seeing that balance right now play out. I don't know how it will play out longer term, but I think that will be a change in showrooms, or possibly a change in showrooms. But I think showrooms are here to stay, maybe not in the same size, maybe not in the same functionality, but they serve a very necessary function for all of our businesses, and they are really quite important. The traffic levels change, but the importance as a percent of our business keeps getting more important.
Great. Yeah, I agree. It's interesting to see whether design centers, start morphing into something else. And as you said, if they go more suburban, then maybe the need for such large venues won't be necessary.
Well, maybe suburban, there is room for more, more
Right.
space because it's less expensive. I don't know, but they are very important. Whoever talks about the death knell of design centers, I think is at least for the next, I don't know if it's a generation, but next midterm is wrong. Maybe digital takes over somehow. 5 years ago, I heard that, or read that Disney and I think it was Google at the time were working on an iPad functionality that allows you to feel the texture of a fabric. So they were going to simulate velvets in your nerve endings on your fingers. So you just look at the product and then you touch the screen and you get the feel of it. That hasn't come about. That was about 5 years ago. So I'm not sure what will replace. I don't know how you sit in something that replaces that feel. But I've certainly been wrong lots of times before.
I mean, how incredible would that be that you could feel a fabric? Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, Cary, I think we've exhausted our time here, and it's been really terrific. I do want to share with our audience because we've worked together for a long time, and I've experienced your business. But what impresses me most is your dedication to our industry. And whether it's the philanthropy you do, your sister's involvement with the New York School of Interior Design, it's far-reaching. There are a lot of tentacles out there that support our industry. And for me personally, I just want to thank you at Granet as a company for what you continue to do for our industry.
Thank you. That's very kind of you, Keith.
Yeah.
We enjoy it too. So we get a lot of pleasure out of it. It's not just the business we're in because we've been in it for generations, I think the seven family members that are involved in the business really do get pleasure out of it.
Yeah, it's obvious.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that's, as we talk about community, that's what it's all about. So as we're supporting and strengthening our community, not just from sales and marketing, but really supporting in a way that gives back. You as a company have demonstrated that in big time. So thank you for that.
Thanks for saying it.
Thank you. This was enjoyable and always great to see you.
Same here.
Appreciate it. What's
I hope
that? I'm sure it'll be well received. And as I said, anybody who can't make it, we post it for all of our users to see. So it'll be available soon.
Great.
Thanks, Cary.
You're very welcome.
So Sarah, we want to talk about next week, where we're bringing on John Mills, who's a senior vice president at Payscape, which is one of our financial partners. And I think there's a lot of information that our users will love to hear, especially now, about how to get clients to pay in a quicker way, how you can use Payscape through Studio for more financial planning and, you know, sort of cash flow. So we're excited to have him next week. And then, as I said earlier in the program, we would love to hear from you if there's other people you'd like us to bring onto this program. We're open to that. And so if you would just email us at hello@studiodesigner.com, we will look at those names. Thank you all. Appreciate your time. And Sarah, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Keith and Cary. Please join us next week on Wednesday, June 17th with John Mills, Senior VP at Payscape.